Get ready. You're listening to Give God 90 live.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Up and running, I hope, everywhere it's supposed to be. And welcome everyone to Give God 90. Thank you so much for letting us be part of your evening or morning or afternoon, whenever you happen to be listening to this. We are live at Facebook. We are live at Spreaker, and hopefully wherever we need to be. So hopefully that's working. I think it is. Let's see. Oh, Kathy's watching. Pam's watching. You're actually watching tonight.
Hi, Kathy. Hi, Pam. Hi, me.
We keep changing things up for a little bit of a couple different reasons. One is to make it easier on Myra because she's dealing with her neck and her shoulder injuries and going through that. So, and every time I move something, it messes with my feng shui kind of thing here. You know, how you get used to things being in a certain place, and I look and it's not where it usually is not where it's been for the last couple of years. So bear with me while I do that. Don't forget, GiveGod90.com still up. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on MeWe. You can find us on all kinds of places. You can follow me on Parler and Twitter and all those kind of things. We are on YouTube as well, and that's always kind of interesting when I get... There's a lot of people around the world that don't do Facebook, but they'll look for things to listen to and watch on YouTube, and it's kind of interesting when I get, notifications, from somebody in Fiji that says, I really enjoyed that. And I think it's kind of cool, and I appreciate it, and never expected it, but there we are. The other thing, what was the other thing I needed to mention before we get going tonight?
We haven't done books yet.
Oh, I haven't said anything about the books yet. Don't forget the books. If you could hear that, I'm not sure what it was that just went by, but it was very, very, very fast. Let's put it that way. Yeah, it's warm here today, so we've got some windows and doors open. Anyway, let's... the books. Don't forget, it's coming up. People like to give gifts here in a short time, and you got to order early because Amazon and Barnes & Nobles and everybody are saying, hey, make sure you order because it takes time to get this stuff to you this year. I looked for something very simple today on one of those places, and instead of having a couple of day delivery, it was like a week and a half out. So, make sure if you're going to get either God's Universe, God's Rules, or Tradition of Truth, or both, you can get both, and that would make me very, very happy. Make everybody happy. Get one for you, get one to give away. It's always a good thing. Let's see. I'm not going to... Hopefully this isn't going to take long because I know a lot of people are going to be looking forward to suffering through another U.S. presidential debate tonight. And no matter what side you're on, this is going... If you watch it, I imagine it's going to be like the last one. You will suffer through it. For the folks who are overseas and, either not interested or... interested but can't see it. There's a lot of things going on in the news, especially today. Some things are happening and some things are turning corners. It would not surprise me to see some people go to jail over what was found. And released to the FBI and to Delaware State Police. So be on the lookout. Just be on the lookout. Things are going to get interesting. Things are going to get interesting. And hopefully the Almighty's got his hand on this and is going to stand back and say, nah, I don't think that you guys want to be doing what you're doing, because the reason being, he'll let us go so far.
And then he calls it quits.
And then he calls
like,
it
"You're
quits.
done."
Just like he told the children as they were, in the wilderness. He says, "Look, you're not going to take this land over yet because they haven't sinned enough to deserve my punishment yet." Mm-hmm. Now I don't know what they had been doing or where they'd been going, but when they deserve his punishment, it's going to be Katie bar the door, because things are going to be bad. And that's kind of leading into what I want to look at tonight, competing with the enemy. Have you ever wondered why it seems like some people seem like they are competing for who can be the most evil? It's like, I can be more bad than you can, Satan, right? Mm-hmm. That's what it seems like. And Peter gives us a hint about this in 2 Peter 3:3-5. He says, "Knowing this first, there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts, and saying, Where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. For this they willingly are ignorant, that by the word of God, the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water." Now, a lot of times, a lot of people take that to mean they're talking about the flood, right? Because as in the days of Noah, right? Mm-hmm. Think about this. What was the earth covered with when the Almighty first created it? Water. Yeah, and the Spirit of God hovered over the waters, right?
Right.
And then he separates the waters. What Peter's actually getting at in this verse is that people forget about creation. People actually, they scoff. Now, they just put, however you, what's the English phrase for that? You know what I'm talking about?
Put?
No, that's the Hebrew, the Yiddish. Anyway, it's like, we'll put that. They don't care. They don't care that the Almighty created heaven and earth. They don't care that, or they don't believe that the Almighty created heaven and earth. They don't believe that there is a God. They say it's a fairy tale. They're scoffers. No, we don't need those fairy tales. We have science to tell us. Tut. There you go, Kathy. Thank you. See? Mitchell's do come in handy for something every once in a while. Myself included. They're saying, where's this promise? He says he's coming, but look at how many generations have died, and he's still not here. What's going on? How can we depend on somebody that says they're coming, but they're not coming? We haven't seen them. It's a fairy tale. You can't, don't bother me with the facts. My mind's made up. I see the comment. So think about this. People dismiss the Almighty as a fairy tale. And they don't really realize how deep of a hole they're digging themselves into. They are willingly ignorant, willfully ignorant. That's like, I can see, Colorado right now the middle of Colorado is on fire. Mm-hmm. They are evacuating Estes Park as we speak. Estes Park is one of the fanciest places just outside of Boulder. Okay, it's fancy up there.
It's gorgeous.
It's kind of like somebody said, I see the fire. I know it's coming. I see the way the smoke's blowing. I know that the wind's blowing. It doesn't affect me. It's a fairy tale. Never mind that it hasn't rained there for 6 months. You understand where I'm going with that, right? People just don't want to see it. They do this in such a way, though, that now it's gotten to the point where they don't want to believe it because we're just going to go our own way. I'm going to do what I think is best. I'm going to do things my way. Now, I don't know about a lot of folks, but for me, that very seldom worked. Okay? It just didn't work all that great. Just putting that out there. Okay? Let's think about something. Why were some so willing to follow the enemy of the Creator when he had left witnesses after creation? Now, think about this. There were some significant witnesses between the time Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden and the flood. Right?
Right.
And you don't know who I'm talking about because you don't know where I was going with this.
Nope.
Today we have things in the United States like you can go see the world's biggest ball of twine, right? And people travel for miles to go see the biggest ball of twine. We've driven cross country several times. You can go see the world's biggest prairie dog. You can go see the world's greatest this or the world's greatest that. You go to the Grand Canyon. You go to other countries. You can see the Eiffel Tower. You can see the Amazon River. You can see the Congo. You can see all these things all around the world. But between being kicked out of the garden and the flood, what do you think the biggest draw might have been? Where people would have gone and seen something and witnessed something because it just wasn't normal. What happened after the Almighty kicked Adam and Eve out of the garden? You look in Genesis 3:24. There were cherubim, more than one because that's plural, and a flaming sword that turned to look in every direction. Now, don't you think if people today are willing to go see the world's largest prairie dog and the world's biggest ball of twine, don't you think that maybe it's possible that they would be willing to go see these things, this flaming sword? Now, we always often get the idea, the concept in our minds that this flaming sword was wielded by one of the angels guarding the garden, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't an angel guarding the garden. It was a cherubim. That was what's described. Moses was very specific when he wrote this down. He says, okay, there's more than one, and there's this sword of fire. Now think about this sword of fire. We're going to see this later, but this time instead of being a warning at post-flood, now it's going to guide the children of Israel, right? Because what went in front of them was a pillar of fire, right? Mm-hmm. What came down on the disciples at Shavuot or Pentecost was a column of fire that split off and rested on each of them, right? So now we have this warning. Now, I don't know about y'all, but if there was a divine being that I knew was a divine being and, Grandpa Adam had told me there was a divine being, I'm going to sneak over that hill and I'm going to look because I want to see what they look like, right? I can't be the only person that would do that. I know somebody back then had to have, and quite honestly, we know that happened, and I'll get to that in a second. We have a better description of what a cherubim looks like just a little bit in Exodus 25, 18 through 21, if you want to read 18 through 21.
Make 2 cherubim of gold. Make them of hammered work at the 2 ends of the mercy seat. Make 1 cherubim at one end and 1 cherubim at the other end. At its 2 ends, make the cherubim of one piece with the mercy seat. The cherubim are to have wings spread out above, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and are to face one another. The faces of the cherubim should be toward the mercy seat. Set the mercy seat on top of the ark and put the testimony that I will give you into the ark.
Okay, so we know now that cherubim are capable of standing. They have wings, right?
Yes.
English doesn't make this very plain. It's much easier to look at this in Hebrew and understand what they're talking about. A lot of drawings and paintings and things that we have that come from that passage have these two angel-like beings with each wing touching right across the seat. What it actually is they're standing, and only one side of the wing is across the seat. So you have, these two beings with these wings going across that form the back for the bench or the throne. Because what the Ark of the Covenant actually is the throne of the Almighty on earth. So they're standing. They have, each has one will have a right wing, the other one have a left wing, as they are stretched across to form the back of the throne. And what we see in that is exactly what Ezekiel describes, right? In his visions, when he sees the throne of God, or Ezekiel saw the wheel, right? It wasn't a flying saucer, okay? It wasn't that. What he sees is his vision of God and these creatures holding it up. And as he's describing that, what he's describing is the cherub that are holding up the throne. Every time we see cherubim throughout any of what is becoming known as iconology, okay, it's kind of like the emojis of the ancient world, where they would carve out things and draw on things and etch in rock or on soft metal. None of the cherubs ever have the same type of face. Sometimes they have the face of a man, sometimes they have the face of an animal, sometimes they have the face of a bird. There's a reason for that. These people understood what they looked like because they had been told what they looked like by who? Their ancestors that got off the ark and said, look, we saw these things. We know what these are, okay? Why do I talk about cherub like this and guarding the garden? Because what we see opposite of this is the other divine being that is described in Scripture, right? Mm-hmm. What we see is a seraph. All the songs talk about the cherubim and the seraphim, and they make them sound like these wonderful divine beings. Don't count on that, okay? If you really don't put your tradition and songs into Scripture and expect to be able to understand it when you read it, because it don't work. What we need to do is make sure that we have the proper understandings, because what a seraph is described in Isaiah. It's described in other places. But let's look at Numbers 21, 5 through 9.
And the people spake against God and against Moses. Wherefore have ye brought us out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread, neither is there any water, and our souls loatheth this light bread. And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much people of Israel died. Therefore the people came to Moses and said, We have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against thee. Pray unto the Lord that he take away the serpents from us. And Moses prayed for the people. And the Lord said to Moses, Make thee a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole. And it shall come to pass that every one that is bitten, when he looketh upon it, shall live. And Moses made a serpent of brass, and put it upon a pole. And it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived.
Okay. Isaiah gives us some additional information as well. Go ahead and scroll up and look at Isaiah 14:28 through 32.
Don't rejoice, all of you in Philistia, because the rod of the one who struck you is broken. For a viper will come from the root of a snake, and from its eggs come a flying serpent. Then the firstborn of the poor will be well fed, and the impoverished will lie down in safety. But I will kill your root with hunger, and your remnant will be slain. Wail, you gates, cry out, city. Tremble with fear, all Philistia. For a cloud of dust is coming from the north. And there is no one missing from the invader's rank. What answer will be given to the messengers from that nation? The Lord has founded Zion, and his afflicted people find refuge in her.
Okay. Now, in Numbers 21, chapter 6, and in Isaiah 14, verse 29, we see one translation as fiery serpent, the other as flying serpent. In Hebrew, they're both the same word. Guess what that word is? Seraph. Isn't that amazing? Now, the iconology of a seraph is a winged serpent. It kind of looks like a snake, but it has wings, and it has arms. Sometimes it has 4 wings, sometimes it has 6 wings. I'm not really sure what the difference of that is, other than it could be somebody just didn't know how to chisel 4 or 6 wings at the same time into a rock. I don't know. Okay? But that's what you're going to find if you go hunt this stuff down. I don't think it's a stretch to say, okay, Genesis 3:1 says the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field. It doesn't say snake there, although the word there is not seraph. The word there is actually Nachash. So there's some discretion, okay? For a long time, I have said that the serpent in the garden was a seraph. Yesterday? No, this morning. Yesterday. Got to keep my time straight. Yesterday. See, that's why you have the hardest job in the world, keeping me straight. We were listening to a podcast from the Kingdom Intelligence Briefing, Dr. Michael Lake and his wife, Mary Lou. They're really good people, but they're the only other people I have ever heard say that the serpent in the garden was a seraph. Now, he takes it a little bit farther, and I'm not really sure that this works, but he thinks that Nachash was actually the name of the serpent that came to trick Eve. Okay? Think about this. What was it that the Almighty reminded the children of Israel of in Numbers 21? When they were misbehaving? He sent what? Snakes. Mm-hmm. Right? So, in verse 6, and the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people. He was reminding them of what happened in the garden. And then as another reminder, oh, by the way, if we look up and we see the snake, and we remember what happened to Eve, maybe we can learn from her mistake. If we see the snake, maybe we can learn. Okay, this is where bad stuff comes from. It was, I'm convinced now more than ever it was a seraph that visited her in the garden, and God is reminding all of these people, this is what happens when you misbehave. This is what happens when things don't go right. This is what is going to happen when you don't follow his instructions, right? You know, we also have later in the book of Acts where Paul's bitten by a poisonous snake and nothing happens to him, right? Mm-hmm. That could be a lot of things. I'm not really convinced that was an actual miracle, but that could have been a lot of things. But you could sort of stretch that into that as well. You know, maybe Paul was doing something he should have been doing. Don't know. But, you know, a snake reached out and bit him. Never forget that. When you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, chances are it will come back and bite you, one way or another, right?
That's right.
Here's the thing: the iconology that we have between the cherub and the seraph, one being a messenger, you could say, of the Almighty, who comes down and stands guard over the tree of life. The other, the seraph, being the one who said, you know what? I might be a created being. It does. It does. Kathy said, whatever happens in the dark always comes to light. Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. The seraph, being a created being, said, you know what? I'm just as good as you are, God. I can do whatever I want. You may have designed me to do this job, but I know better than you. I know way better than you. And it says that the serpent was cunning and he was shrewd. But what did it cause other than the obvious? There's something that happened there that we miss when we read this story, or this lesson, I should say. When we look at this lesson of the serpent coming down and speaking with Eve, it's actually the first transcript of a conversation in the Bible. You know, every other time it's God saying something or Adam saying something, but there's no real interaction. This is the first time we see interaction, a transcript of a real conversation. And it happens to be between the serpent, what I happen to believe is a seraph, and Eve. But what are we missing? What happened there? It brought sin in a physical condition, yeah. That's the obvious. But what did it do? What changed in humanity at that point? Think about this. It began and the best way I can come up with this, the best term I can come up with this, is a malicious scheme in humanity. And it puts us not on a level of that image of God that he created initially and intended us to be, but now we're on a different level. The flood could not completely remove this maliciousness, right? Because it was, by that point, obviously inbred, no, I won't say inbred, it was embedded into who we are as people. Very shortly after the children of Noah get off the ark and they begin to repopulate, the image Nimrod comes up, and he was probably one of the first ones who said, you know what? I've heard these stories about the way it used to be. I'm just as good as God. I can be God on earth. And that's what he was doing. He was actually developing a way to become God on earth. There's some other legends that go along with that I don't want to take time to go into. But think about Nimrod saying, you know, let's build a tower. Well, he wasn't building a tower so they could all go to heaven. He was building a tower so he could ascend. That's what kings do. That's what gods are for, right? God with a little g, that is. So now what we see is something really, really interesting. And I don't know if that serpent in the garden realized what he was doing. Instead now of looking up at a snake on a pole, people today are more inclined to say, you know what? There's no God, it's me. Satan, who cares about Satan? He's nothing. I can do way more than he did. I can go way beyond whatever he thought about doing. All he ever did was trick Eve. I can do better than that. That's what people are doing. I don't know if Satan himself had a concept of what was going on. Okay? I really don't know if he had this concept of what was happening. But think about this. As Satan tricks Eve and embeds that maliciousness into humanity, now what we're seeing is a result of that over thousands of years, or actually 6,000 years, of build-up time. Now it's come to the point where many, many, many people are saying, I don't need God. I don't even need Satan. It's me. I'm the one I need to worry about, right? Mm-hmm. It's all about me. And it that could work up to the point where you say it's all about you and I say it's all about me. And if I'm bigger and stronger than you, guess who's going to win?
You.
Me, yeah. If I'm bigger, better, and better than anybody else, who gets to walk up that stairway to heaven?
You.
Well, I might get a few steps because there's somebody that's going to be standing in the way, getting ready to kick me back down to where I belong.
That's it.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Can do. And that's exactly what they're doing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what the Almighty has put out and said. It doesn't matter in the world. These folks are competing with the enemy. And they are competing not in a good way. They're competing for a chance, they think, to be glorified themselves. And it's not going to work. The result they get, they are not going to be happy with. When you compete with the enemy on that level, you don't stand a chance. Because if you happen to read the back of the book, the end of the book, what happens to him? Now, I'm going to say this, and it's going to drive a bunch of Christians crazy. But I'm good at that, right? A lot of people talk about, I will be so glad when Jesus comes and straightens this whole mess out. Like it's going to happen in an instant. Do you realize it takes him 1,000 years to work it out? That's what that millennial reign is all about. Working out the final few. Working out the ones who might actually get it and figure it out before it's too late for them. I don't suggest you wait that long. I don't suggest you wait that long. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I just can't wait. Is it Amos tells us, don't be in a rush for it. Don't wish for the day because there's some bad stuff going to happen. Mm-hmm. Just right. Let it percolate on God's time. You know, don't try to force the Almighty's hand in this because it won't be good for you. There's enough people out there, and they're found everywhere, including in your churches, that are competing with the enemy. And they're not competing with the enemy to see who can be better. They're competing with the enemy to see who can be more bad. Does that make sense? They're competing with them to say, I can be bad better than you. That's what they're trying to do. They're doing a really good job of it too, by the way. I mean, let's face it. You know, there's things going on that, you know, there's things going on that, you know, make Jeffrey Dahmer look like he needs a pardon. So, just saying. Don't compete with the enemy. It's not good. It's not healthy. Don't do it. That's all I had this evening. It's a good thing because I'm losing my voice. I said I wasn't going to keep everybody very long, and I'm not because there is the thing tonight. there's a lot of people that listen to this all over the world. Folks, the people outside the United States, you are going to be affected by this. Trust me. It's not going to be pretty for the next several weeks, I'm afraid. Nothing to be afraid of. I'm just saying, get ready. Get ready the best way you know how. And sometimes that getting ready might not be the getting ready you might think. So get ready. If the Almighty tells you to do something, I would follow His instructions.
That's it.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add? No? Okay.
No.
Folks, we certainly appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to listen to us whenever you're listening, wherever you're listening. Don't forget those like buttons and the share buttons. A lot of people need to hear this, because if you know what you're up against, and if you know why you're up against it, it makes things easier, right?
It does.
It does. Until next week, have a blessed
Yes,
week.
good night all.